You are listening to the Fly the W670 podcast, season 3, episode 84, the 2024 Cubs outfield grades. Don't forget to listen, download, review, most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. Follow on all the socials, Fly the W670 on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Email us, flythew670@gmail.com. Well, Crawly, the AL and NLCSs are in the books. And we are going to get to that a little bit later. But we're going to start out like a little bit what we did last time. Last time around, you and I graded the infield. And now we're going to get into the outfield, correct?
Yeah, it was a interesting year for the Cubs as far as the outfielders are concerned. Similar like we did last time in the last episode, we're going to look at a couple different things and kind of to determine the grades. We want to take a look at what they are offensively because that's important, obviously, but also defensively. So we're going to combine the offense, we're going to combine the defense, and then kind of come up with a grade for each of these guys. When we talked last time, we said about the baseline, an average MLB player has a slash line of 243, 312, 399. So average 243 on base, 312 slugging, 399. We also talked a little bit about the park factor, how Wrigley played as a pitcher's friendly park. And Dustin, we're going to have to talk about that when we grade the pitching because you wonder how much that affected, because the Cubs pitching staff was really great this year. How much, if it hurt the offense, it might have helped the pitching. But we'll also take a look at the defensive runs saved and outs above average. So the good thing is that there's not a crazy amount of outfielders that we have to look at today. We will look at Ian Happ first. Ian Happ, Dustin, is a Gold Glove finalist again. So if we're talking about defense, with Ian Happ, here's the Gold Glovers for left field this season. You got Ian Happ as the defending left field Gold Glove finalist. Lourdes Gurriel from the Diamondbacks and Brandon Marsh from the Phillies. Dustin, when I look at those Gold Gloves, it seems like the Diamondbacks just had a really good defense. They just didn't have the season that they were expecting. When I kind of just look here and I'm like, okay, this guy did this guy did that. I mean, it was pretty impressive to see what the Diamondbacks have, but it's weird how baseball works sometimes.
Yes. It's very strange how things work sometimes. Not
right.
A little bit, very. Yep.
I think sometimes people, I don't want to say I'm not a guy that looks at numbers because I do like looking at numbers, but I understand why people sometimes you just can't look at a computer because sometimes, these things pop out a certain way and somehow they're not in the playoffs or something goofy happens.
Right.
But Ian Happ offensively, I thought he had a really, really good year, but like most of the Cubs, when they were struggling, it all happened to be roughly at the same time, right? So when we talk about Ian Happ and we talk a lot at some of his numbers, he had a pretty good offensive season. He slashed 243, 341, 441. So he's about an average hitter, above average on slug. So not looking that bad there. He had 25 home runs, Dustin. That ties him with the most home runs he's had in his career. With 2021 was the last time he had that many home runs. So, good home runs there, RBIs, 86 RBIs. That was the most he's ever had in his career. So offensively, Ian Happ really had a career year. And I think sometimes people kind of, when you look at that, you kind of forget that happens.
I don't disagree. I mean, the numbers are the numbers, right? I mean, the numbers are the numbers, but part of this also, and I know it's out there and you probably know where it's at, but like month to month, okay, what was he like in April? What was he like in May? Where, and then we talked about a minute ago, Crawly, you brought it up and it's something we've harped on all year during this podcast, the too many guys going in the same direction at the same time. So like somebody wasn't going up while somebody else was going down to kind of even things off. So it's like all three, it just felt that way. Now the numbers might tell me that I'm wrong and that can happen just from where, sitting, watching, listening to Cubs games. It seemed like, the left-hand side, the third baseman, the shortstop, the left fielder, all were having like a bad 2 weeks together. Right. And the right fielder and center field were average at best. And then it was the right side, the first baseman, the second baseman, the catcher, the right fielder, all struggling at the same time, and no balance. The big thing in football they keep talking about, the football teams that are doing good, Crawly, are playing complementary football. Okay, they're doing things on offense, they're doing things on special teams, they're doing things on defense, and not nearly enough are the Cubs playing complementary baseball, where the pitching, the bullpen always seemed like a big anchor for this team, right? How long was the catching position? It was just a terrible anchor for this team, dragging it down. So I think you really got to really dig deep when you're talking about, he had a career year on offense. Okay, did he have a really good August and September when things really, unfortunately, didn't matter as much?
When you look at it, and I think, I talked to Megan Montemurro on the last episode about Tom Ricketts' frustrations, and I know Jed has talked about it, is that for whatever reason, 2023, 2024 season, they got off to a good April, bad May and June, and then they spent July, August, September trying to get back in it, which they did. They were in it until the last weekend in 2023. They were in it till about the last week and a half in 2024, but you can't have two bad months. So you're asking Ian Happ in April, 189, 311, 289 slash line. Awful. Absolutely abysmal when you talk about
it. But the Cubs were good in April, right? The Cubs were good in April.
The Cubs were good in April. And then in May, Ian Happ ended up with a slash line of 231, 317, 462.
So he's going in the right direction, but you really couldn't have gone any worse. So going in the right direction.
244, 387, 500. And then he starts heating up a little bit in July, 253, 330, 516 in July. August, he's slashing 263, 354, 535. And then in September, 250, 324, 340. But it's kind of like what you were saying earlier, where he is playing, just all the guys were just struggling at the same time. And again, like you said, not complimentary. When the offense was good, the pitching was bad. When the pitching was good, the offense was bad, and the bullpen was bad, just more often than not. And so that's why it ends up hurting you. When we look at Happ defensively, you could take a look here. He's 13th in baseball in outs among average, -2 outs among average. So, okay, like I said, roughly around 13th. But when you take a look at defensive runs saved, that's where he does a really good job. He was worth 8 defensive runs saved. So that's why he's going to be in the, right now, as far as DRS is concerned, the best in the National League defensively. You see Lourdes Gurriel, who's nominated. Brandon Marsh, I really didn't see much, so kind of surprised that he was making the Gold Gloves. But those things are kind of funky sometimes. But again, Dustin, when you say at the end of the year, these are Ian Happ's numbers, you would take them. Now, that being said, it wasn't a breakout performance. It was a good performance, but the Cubs didn't have anybody that broke out. Where you look at the Mets and you say, okay, Mark Vientos, that was a guy that just absolutely just exceeded far beyond what the average numbers would say. The Cubs didn't have any of those guys in their everyday lineup. You could say Shota did that as far as pitching, but nobody outshot what the average numbers would be for most of these guys.
Okay.
There was no superstar that kind of came in here and said, like, okay, this guy's tearing the world on fire. Didn't happen.
Yeah.
And now when we talk about PCA, Dustin, I think that's another guy. So when you talk about first half, second half, PCA didn't break camp with the team, right?
Right.
And so he's a guy that as a young player, it took him a while. Him and Miguel Amaya, they were awful in the first half.
And I think we knew that was going to happen. But now we're not doing Miguel Amaya today, right? Are we doing that? Or you want me to hold off? Because
hold off on that.
Okay. All right. You brought his name up, but I'm not going to fire until you say go. So we'll pull off of that one for right this second.
But PCA is definitely one of those guys that, just had a really terrific year. But if you just look at him first half versus second half, it is literally, Dustin, night and day on PCA when you look at the numbers first half to second half. So he finishes the season, Dustin, with a slash line of 237, 282, 370. So, if you can sit there and break down the numbers further, you're not going to sit there and go like, oh my God, the guy, 237 average. It's not anything. Like, again, 244 is an average player as far as average is concerned. He had 10 home runs, 47 RBIs. but 27 stolen bases is what really impressed you. And just, he was just not getting caught. He was, to me, when I was watching him, he was just every time. I think I only saw one time that he got thrown out, like legit thrown out, not caught up between something or something happened. And so he played in 123 games this season compared to 13 the season before. When we look at month by month, though, that's where you really kind of start to see with PCA a really big difference. He doesn't get called up till April 24th. So I wouldn't look at April too much. But when you take a look at May, he slashed 233, 306, 302. When you look at June, he kind of had some struggles in June, 145, 192, 203. So that was a month where all the Cubs were really struggling, and PCA was no exception. When you take a look at July, 197, 232, 379, then you kind of get to the All-Star break, and that's when they were working with PCA a lot. And when the month in July, Dustin, 314, 375, 558. You hit up to August, and that was in August. I mean, that was just absolutely phenomenal. Just a phenomenal month of August. That was by far his best month of the season. So I think when you talk about PCA, there's a lot there, and I think he was able to really turn it around. When you look at as far as before the All-Star break, Dustin, pre-All-Star break, he slashed 203, 253, 329. After the All-Star break, 262, 310, 425. So he hit 60 points higher after the All-Star break. He slugged 100 points higher after the All-Star break. So
that's good, right? I mean, that's improvement. No matter how low the bar was, that's improvement, and that's what you want to see from a young guy. So that's good.
But when we talk about those Wrigley splits, he hit 202 at Wrigley, and he hit 265 on the road.
Yeah.
So again, how much of that is park factors? I am not sure. But the thing that bothers me, Dustin, is that PCA was not named as a Gold Glove finalist. Jacob Young from the Washington Nationals, Brenton Doyle from the Rockies, and Blake Perkins from the Brewers are your three.
Is there a number, Crawly? Is there a number, like did he have to play a certain amount of games? He played a lot of games, right?
He qualified.
He
absolutely.
Qualified? He did qualify. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know sometimes there is that part where you have to qualify. So wanted to make sure he did enough to get himself in position to even be considered.
Yes. And so when we talk about outs above average, PCA had 14 outs above average. He was the fourth best center fielder in baseball. In front of him, Jacob Young at first, Brenton Doyle second, and both of those guys are finalists. I don't have a problem with that. Jose Siri is third from the Rays with 16, but Blake Perkins is 7. He has 3 less than PCA as far as outs above average. If we go to defensive run save, again, Jose Siri was was tied with PCA for the best in baseball with 12 defensive run saves. So PCA best in the National League, tied for best in baseball. Brenton Doyle is on that list too. So again, and Jacob Young, Blake Perkins 6. So if you're taking a look at this Gold Glove here, Jacob Young, Brenton Doyle, I think Blake Perkins should have been taken off. I think PCA should have been in there.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, listen, I'll agree with you. That's nothing to argue about. I mean, I thought PCA had a really nice year. I think the key, Crawly, is going to be next year, right? How are pitchers going to respond to him? How is he going to respond to the work that he does? And it's something we'll talk about later, unless you want to talk about it a little bit right this second. Where does PCA bat next year, right? Is he, if there's lots of ifs, there's not a ton of ifs unless something really crazy happens. It's not a whole lot the Cubs can do as far as changing the lineup, the everyday players. But if you were to trade the second baseman, all of a sudden you have a spot potentially near the top of the order that you need to fill, right? So I think it's interesting. And is he ready for that? Is he ready to make that jump? And that's what the Cubs have to decide, because you might put a little too much pressure on the guy if you move him up. But at some point, when you're that kind of a player, five-tool player, or 5-star guy, you can't be batting 8th or 9th.
I think they're probably going to bat him low to start off again, see how he does. And if he really starts doing well, I'm sure that that's something that they're going to look into. Ian Happ had a really good season when he was moved to leadoff. I think that made a big difference for him. What grade, when we think about offense and defense, what grade would you give Ian Happ this year?
I think a solid, like a B. I think a B is fair. You?
Yeah, I was going to go B minus. So in the B
We're
range.
still in the B range. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if he would have had a better April, May, I think I would have given him a B plus. But bad start with PCA. I would also go with a B minus though.
Yeah, I think B minus works. I think that's a good grade. I think a B minus is a good grade on that. I would agree totally. And but I think the good news is he's trending in the right direction, right? He's going up. So I think that's a good one.
The last time we talked about this last year, there was a lot of questions. People, and I said it was only 13 game sample size, but people were freaking out. I'm like, let this kid get a little bit of time under his belt and see what happens. And he was able, I think, really to make some incredible adjustments. And so right field, Dustin, is a little bit tricky when we move over on the diamond there. And one of the things that was tricky was that Cody Bellinger got hurt early in the year, which is why PCA came up in April. And then PCA was doing so well, they didn't, when they brought him back down for a second and then called him back up, I think within a couple days. And it was a question of where are you going to play Cody Bellinger? And so it was kind of this rotation for Cody of he played some center field, he played some first base, and he played right field. And eventually I think they settled him into that right field and have Seiya Suzuki be in the DH. And so that's a big question for next season as well. When we take a look at Seiya's numbers, that's where you kind of look at the offense and you say to yourself, okay, let's take a look at how Seiya did. And I think, again, same kind of thing where slow start, but at the end, he gets his numbers. It reminds me a lot like all these, like of Aramis Ramirez. You know what I mean? You could always book Aramis's numbers, literally write them down, and they'd be the same at the end of the year. But the start was always kind of sluggish. But this year, Seiya, who wasn't injured, started out really well in April. He slashed 341, 415, and he slugged 614. And that's when the Cubs were really, doing well. But then in May, when everyone struggled, he slashed 219, 275, 329. Picks it up in June, 258, 345, 505. July, 299, 376, 546. Then he gets into August. He really heats up. 287, 354, 495. And then September, 329, 457, 471. So pre-All-Star break, he was 270, 334, 479 slash line. Post-All-Star break, 300, 402, 487. So for me, Dustin, you had that with 21 home runs and 73 RBIs. I think that this was the best season of Seiya's career as far as offensive numbers are concerned.
Sure, but not a complimentary baseball player. Now, I think if you're right, if they leave him in the DH role all year long, unless it's just to get another guy a day off his feet, I think then we might have something positive there.
Yeah, I think that is, that's where I would like to see him. He was just absolutely, really good offensively. Defensively, there was still, he's not a horrible outfielder. It's just the mistakes that he made always just kind of tend to be at the worst possible moment.
He's pretty bad, Crawly. He's pretty bad.
He is 16th.
He was pretty bad.
16th among right fielders. So kind of in the middle.
Right in the middle. Right. But he's paid better than a right in the middle guy, isn't he?
Yeah,
it'd be another interesting thing. And again, I'm sure you know how to find these numbers. I don't all the time. And I should know how, because I come up with this stuff and I don't know how to support it. But like amongst right fielders, how well is he paid?
Right. That I don't know off the top of my head. But
I would expect you to know off the top of your head. Right. But I mean, it might be something, to whom much is given, much is expected. Right. So and I think he was given he got a pretty good buck from the Cubs.
I would say that, take a look at, you look at a couple of things here is that I would say compared to what he produces offensively, not really what you'd want there. But if you take a look, Anthony Santander's a name that a lot of people are interested in. Baltimore Orioles. He's a guy that's -2 outs above average. But when you take a look at him offensively, he's a guy that absolutely was just crushing it. And he had a great season. He had 44 home runs and slash 235, 308, 814. So he didn't hit for average like Seiya did, but 44 home runs. That's the slug that you're looking for, right?
That's the slug you're looking for. That's the slug you're looking for.
So when you look at Seiya's numbers, they're all really, really good. He's not a superstar, you know? And so when I'm kind of looking at Seiya and his defensive runs saved, you go down the list here, and he actually did a little bit better than Cody Bellinger. Cody Bellinger was at about a 1, and Seiya Suzuki was at a 3 defensive runs saved. So, you know, just out of right field, the offense wasn't great. When we look at Cody Bellinger, though, take a look at this, Dustin. He played in 2024. He played right field for 49 games. He played like 48 games in center fielder, 24 in DH, and 22 at first base. So he kind of played a lot. And I think
I'm surprised he's not part of our conversation this afternoon.
He definitely is, but he's again, you have 2 right fielders, one in the first half and one in the second half, right? So, I mean, as far as Seiya, what grade would you give him on that?
Now, am I grading him as a complimentary baseball player, or am I grading him as
offense, defense?
I guess I'm going to be nice and give him a C+.
Wow.
And that's me. I could have gone C- because I think his defense was so atrocious. And the Cubs are lucky. The Cubs are lucky that they have the roster that they have with some interchangeable parts. Because if you had to have that guy in right field all the time, I think you're looking at a C-.
I'm going to go with a B+ here over the season.
B+?
Yeah. He's the best hitter on your team.
I'd still like to know when he does what he does, like when he gets his hits.
I mean,
like when he hits home, how many games did the Cubs win that he homered in, and what parts of the year was he hitting the best? And maybe it was when he was DHing. If that's the case, I'm sure again, another stat I'm sure we can break down and get really, deep in this. And this is like a homework assignment, right? We can get into this next week. Maybe one of our emailers that's big into the stats wants to help us out a little bit. No need to do it right this second. We got plenty of time to talk about it. But I'm curious, because again, I'm going back to if he did his better part of hitting is I'm judging him as a right fielder. We're judging the outfield today, right? We're judging the outfield. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know how in the world, Crawly, you can give a guy a B+ when we're grading the outfield. And if we're grading the DH, okay, that might be a different story. But grading the outfielders, because part of what he was doing was outfielding, supposedly, bad. And I don't know if it's like an in between the ears thing, but it wasn't good.
Again, when you take a look at it, he was about average. Right dead in the middle is where he was, and he produced well defensively.
He's not paid to be average. He's paid to at least be good.
A lot of right fielders are kind of defensively. He hit almost above 260 every month, other than May. He hit 219. That was the month that killed him. Other than if he would have had just 250 in the month of May, he very much could have been a 300 hitter for the season.
Right, and then guess what? I'd have given him a big B+.
Okay.
Listen, I should have had you as a high school teacher. Oh wait, you are a high school teacher.
Yeah, but you were one of my students. I would have graded you well. Now you did mention one other guy we haven't talked about, and again, it's just because of where he was, and that's what kind of makes this a little bit of a tough exercise with Cody Bellinger. And I guess when you look at Cody for the season, he hit only 18 home runs, 78 RBIs, Dustin. And when we take a look at his slash lines, it's nothing to really write home about as far as the season is concerned. He hit 266 was his average, 325 was his on base percentage. So just kind of looking at him, he's slugged 426. But I think when I look at this, I look at the season. I think he was injured a lot, to be honest with you, and he never really kind of produced what we expected. He struggled in April as well, 230, 301, 459. May, he had 290, 327, 473. June, 279. July, he's always on fire in July, 350. But then in August, he dipped again down to 228, 288, 416. And then September, 266, 327, 447. Pre-All-Star game, 269, 331, 410. Post-All-Star game, 260, 316, 451. He got paid a pretty hefty sum, Dustin. And I don't know if it was really, I remember all the players at CubsCon, all that stuff, saying, we need Cody, we need Cody. Again, I don't think he did okay defensively. He did okay offensively, but he got downvotes for MVP last year. There were people that voted for him to be the MVP of the National League last year, and I don't think he was anywhere close to that.
No, I agree with you there. No, he was not close to there.
And that's what if you're Jed Hoyer, you wanted that guy to have a career year. You wanted PCA to learn under Cody Bellinger, and then you wanted Cody Bellinger to opt out of that contract, and then hopefully get somebody that could hit a little bit more, and that's not what happened.
No,
so
that is not what happened.
That is the big question right now: is what does Cody Bellinger do as far as his opt out? That's probably, I would say, the biggest question facing the Cubs in the offseason.
All right, Mike Tauchman, we talking about him next?
Yeah, I mean, Mike Tauchman, he really good it's really hard to sit on the bench and then, hey, Tauchman, grab a bat. You're starting today.
Right, right, exactly. Yes.
And I think he did a very good job in that. As far as, the slash line, 248, 367, 366. He's a guy, though, that just gives you quality at bats, no matter if he's playing every day or not every day. He draws walks. He gets on base a lot. As far as home is concerned, he's one of the few guys that at home really kind of did well. 266, 378, 439 at home compared to 233, 339, 302 on the road. So he did a lot better at home than he did on the road. But, looking at the numbers, he didn't really have a lot of games that he got to play in. So, 25 in April, 26, but then it just drops precipitously in June, July, August. 14 starts in June, 11 in July, 14 in August. And so,
how was he as a pinch hitter, Crawly?
I'd have to take a look at just pinch hitting. Take a look at the stats.
I keep throwing homework at you left and right.
But I think all in all, if it was, how about this? In late games or close games, he was 318, 434, 455. So he was a guy that really did well in that situation, playing late in games than he did in starting. So again, good pinch hitter, okay defensively, gets on base a lot. I would definitely give him a B- as well when it comes to as a fourth outfielder bench piece.
Yeah, I'm going to, believe it or not, I'm going to agree with you 100%, Crawly.
So I think we were in agreement most of the ways, other than
Seiya, right? Seiya, you and I were not even close. Again, I don't know that. I'd like to see what he did is just the DA. Did he hit better were his two best months, Crawly, August and September? If we go back to him for a second.
As we look at Seiya, we could take a look at him. And yeah, he was good the whole season, like I said, other than May. But yeah, I think he did better once he became a DH. If I take a look, and I'm pulling it up right now, he's got in July, he hit 299, August 287, September 329. So other than April was his best month at 341. But he only played half the games in April. When you take a look at full games, full months in July, he played in 25 games, August 25, September 23. He had 299 in July, 287 in August, 329 in September. So I think, if you aren't worried about power, he's a perfect DH right now. Gotcha.
All right, very good. So that was a look at the outfield, and we'll be doing this again throughout the course of this off season. This is episode 84 of the Season 3 Fly the W670 podcast. We are grading the Cubs outfielders. Feel free to give us a 5-star review, download, review, subscribe to this fine podcast. You can email us, flythew670@gmail.com. And don't forget, you can watch us, that's right, on the 670 The Score YouTube page. In this segment, Crawly's talking to Brendan King, play-by-play man of the High A Cubs affiliate, South Bend Cubs, to find out how the team did this season and what the prospects are for us to keep an eye out on come the 2025 season.
Joining me now on the Fly the W podcast. Last week we went to Myrtle Beach. Now we're heading to the High A affiliate South Bend Cubs, where we find our friend, the play-by-play broadcaster, Brendan King. Brendan, how you doing today?
Crawly, it's always a pleasure to be on the show. Thanks for having me, and hope you're doing well, man.
I'm doing great. It's kind of weird. We're down to, after what? We're down to one game of baseball a night now is what we're down to. So it's a good time to reflect and look back. And I know record-wise, the South Bend Cubs didn't kind of do what they wanted to do. There was a little bit more wins and losses this year. But, there was a lot of young talent in the system, I think.
There certainly was. And actually, just to your point, how you started that question, with it being one game a night, of course, the Yankees just clinched their ticket to the World Series. Cleveland Guardians, their hitting coach, Dan Puente, who was our hitting coach in 2022 with the South Bend Cubs. So a quick shout out to Dan Puente, because he had a heck of a year taking his Cleveland hitters to the ALCS. But no, your point is true, Crawley. And we had a year that started, and we talked about him midway through the year. Names to know: Jefferson Rojas and Pedro Ramirez, the young bucks up the middle. They were with the team all year. And, I feel like in South Bend over the last number of years, Crawley, we have had our shortstop and second baseman both kind of be studs. And that's really how Jed and the crew have built the system, where the middle infield depth is just rock solid. I mean, Crawley, at the start of this past season, Ed Howard was almost the odd man out, quote unquote, of the middle infield, because you had to play Ed at third base sometimes. You had to sneak him in at second. Couldn't really play his natural position of shortstop because Jefferson Rojas was playing so darn well. And then at the end of the season, Christian Hernandez comes up. It was cool to watch him, and he got an opportunity to hit third every day. So yeah, Crawley, I think I just wrapped up my 5th year with the South Bend Cubs, which is crazy to say. But the middle infield depth, especially over the last, let's call it 3 years, the system has just blossomed and flourished. And, you've got Dansby playing there in Chicago. You got Nico playing there in Chicago. Isaac Paredes was acquired. But, building for the future, that's no doubt what they have done specifically in that area, because they are just loaded and loaded with riches of great middle infield prospects.
Man, you got to see 2 championships in 5 years. Not a bad record for you, right?
Not a bad record. I've got the 2 rings, which you have tried on both of them before.
Oh, yeah.
Which, always like sporting those around. And I've said it before. The rings, I'm almost scared to wear them because they're just so nice and I don't want to damage them. So it's usually like strictly a wedding thing or a formal events thing. Otherwise, they're locked up and I take care of them.
Yeah, they did such a good job with those. But, you talk about Ed Howard, and it was, we talked about it earlier, just so amazing that he was kind of a forgotten guy. He had that horrific injury, and it's hard when you're the first pick in that weird 2020 draft, but it seemed like he finally got his feet under him this year.
Yeah, I was just talking about this on a radio station the other day where they asked about Ed. And I think Ed had exactly the year, Crawley, that he needed to have, not from a numbers standpoint. He hit 255, which is very good for, again, a 22-year-old guy that missed all of 2020 due to COVID and then missed all of 2022 and half of 2023 due to that scary hip injury. The reason why Ed Howard had a successful year and the reason why he has really gotten put back on track with his career is because he played every single game. He did not hit the injured list once. There was not even a period, Crawley. I can't even remember a time where he got like shaken up on a play. He had a fully healthy year for the first time in years. And that's huge because, again, he's 22. And the way I think about it, and we've had this discussion before, if Ed Howard ended up going to college, he was committed to go play at Oklahoma. If he was going to college and he played 4 years, he would just be coming out. But now he's got these 3 full years of pro experience. And 2025 is a massive year for Ed. And what I love most is that the swing carried through the year. And you can almost kind of see it in stages, Crawley, where start of the year, like, okay, he's just trying to, get comfortable. He's just trying to make contact. He's trying to use the opposite way. Midway through the year, it's like, oh man, he's starting to drive the ball a little bit. And he started to hit some home runs. He started to find the gaps. And then by the end of the year, this guy's slashing line drives like it's his job, which ultimately led him, and I'm sure you'll talk to Alex Cohen soon, the promotion to AAA Iowa, which was super special. He picked up his first AAA hit. So Ed Howard, not only as nice of a human being as there is in the organization, He's got the great pedigree of being a Chicago kid. He comes from a fantastic family. But again, him playing the full year with 0 injuries and kind of being able to find that footing again, 2025, big year for Ed Howard on the way.
Now, you talked a bit about Jefferson Rojas, and, he had some really interesting year. And when you looked at it, he had a nice hitting streak in there. He was, but sometimes, you may not get the homers, but he was really hitting the ball hard off his bat. Like, he had a really good hard hit rate and just really looked impressive, I think.
I thought that was the most important part, Crawly, because he did not look overmatched as an 18-year-old turning 19. Again, he was 18 in that first at-bat of the season. And by the way, let's go back to early April in that first at-bat of the season, because his first swing as a high A ball player was an opposite field home run over the wall out in Quad Cities. And just to paint the picture here for those listening, Quad Cities, if you can imagine a ballpark that flows right on the Mississippi River, the banks of the Mississippi literally are 15 feet away from the right field wall. So there's some crazy wind. You think lake effect wind at Wrigley is crazy. Try river effect wind in the Quad Cities in the Midwest League. It's nuts. So it was like 40 degrees. It was a night where after the sunset, no thanks, I don't want to be on the field. Jefferson Rojas comes up against the Royals' top pitching prospect, Ben Kudrna. First swing in the Midwest League, a bomb the opposite way. You're like, oh my goodness, this kid can be special. And like you said, he put together a 17-game hitting streak. Pedro Ramirez actually matched him and had the same. That's tied for the longest South Bend Cubs hitting streak ever. But yeah, towards the end of the year, Jefferson got a little banged up. So he did not finish off the last week of the season. He was cut a little short. But listen, again, he started the year with the team. He played pretty much all the way through the end of August, and again, missed that little last back half of September. But super excited about him because, again, of the way what you said, the home runs will come. The power is going to come along as he gets stronger. When the Cubs put him in that strength program and that nutrition program, that guy, I mean, think about what Gleyber Torres looks like right now in the Yankees, right? Gleyber is a large, well-built, strong guy. Gleyber looked exactly like Jefferson when he was in South Bend in 2015. So Jefferson Rojas is just going to build up that muscle, and eventually he's going to look like Gleyber Torres. Now, is he going to play like Gleyber Torres? That's, of course, the million-dollar question, but he is setting himself up to do that.
And you mentioned Pedro Ramirez at the hot corner, and boy, he had himself a really nice season, I think, at South Bend. I got to see him when I went down there. And, sometimes guys just aren't necessarily on your radar. Like, everyone knows, okay, Jefferson Rojas or, Christian Hernandez. There's names that are very familiar, but I thought Pedro Ramirez had a sneaky great year for the South Bend Cubs.
He did, and he's kind of the odd man out in that conversation because you see him to start the year like, okay, this guy's a top 15 prospect, but I hear all about Jefferson, I hear all about Christian, I hear all about these other guys, but let me watch Pedro. He's a switch hitter with power from both sides. Crawly, we last talked, I think, on this show like in June. In the month of May, Pedro Ramirez had a stretch at the plate where, no joke, he was the hottest hitter in baseball. If you look at the actual time period of the big leagues and the minor leagues, nobody had a better stretch at the plate in the first 2 weeks of May than Pedro Ramirez when he went 25 for 48 at the plate, including a stretch in Lansing where he had 9 hits in a series, 2 of them being home runs. We won that series literally because of him. He put the team on his back, had a couple late inning bombs. But I think what stands out too is he's not the most physically imposing guy yet, but he's got some sneaky pop from both sides of the plate. He had a walk-off grand slam late in the year, one of the more impressive swings we saw all season. So yeah, even though it's weird because he's almost like that lurk in the shadows type of prospect, like, okay, this guy's putting up numbers. He doesn't get the notoriety of others for whatever reason, but he just continues to slash. So again, 2025, we'll see how it shakes out with how the Cubs want to challenge their prospects. The Cubs have always been, at least in the most recent big league squad, Jed hiring Jared Banner and others and Justin Stone. Stoney and Jared have always seemingly in their tenure been willing to challenge prospects. So Pedro is only going to be 21. Jefferson's only 19. You can challenge him and put him at Double-A Tennessee. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But also, you send him back to South Bend and they hit 350 for a couple weeks, get a little confidence. I think that's also a good route too. So I'm excited to see where they land in 25.
That's always fun. Yeah. When you guys get to see the rosters and the one thing when I'm watching this postseason and whether it's Cleveland or whoever, but you're seeing the arms come out of the bullpen, and I think that, South Bend had some really, really interesting guys come through, pitching, as far as Drew Gray and Will Sanders and just some really interesting guys that had some really good years.
Well, the two you mentioned right there are both starting pitching prospects, and it's exciting because you can see the appeal of both of those two as starting pitchers. But then you kind of peel back the layers and you say, you know what? Like, obviously, you would want them to be starters. But look at what Porter Hodge just did this year with the Chicago Cubs and what he has turned into. Don't forget, Crawly, in 2022, Porter Hodge threw the Midwest League Championship game when we won the title out in Eastlake, Ohio. And he was as notorious of a starting pitching name in the Cubs system as there was anybody. I mean, it was kind of him, Daniel Palencia, Cole Franklin, Jordan Wicks, DJ Hers. Of course, DJ's now with the Nationals. Wicksy's in the Cubs rotation. But, Cole Franklin's going to come back from Tommy John surgery, and I'm very curious to see what happens with Cole. Very well, he could still be a starting pitcher, but also let loose out of the bullpen possibly. I think it'd be fun for Cole Franklin. The point being, and I'm going to connect this back to Gray and Sanders, look at Palencia and Hodge now. They were both starting pitching prospects and very good ones, but now they have made a name for themselves in the Cubs bullpen because Danny P throws 102 out of the pen, and Porter Hodge is upwards of triple digits with a nasty slider. He closed out the no-hitter, for goodness sakes, right? So back to Gray and Sanders. Drew Gray, his first inning of the year, he struck out the side in Quad Cities. On that same night, Jefferson Rojas hit that home run. So that was a very good night for Cubs prospects, by the way, on opening day. Drew Gray walked more than he would have liked this year, but he found it towards the end. Last start of the year, struck out a career high 9 out in Fort Wayne, and he kind of had a lull midseason with the command. Really found it. That's a credit to the South Bend Cubs pitching staff. Bruce Billings and Andrew Reeder did a great job with Drew. But Drew's throwing, 96, 97 as a starter. And that was kind of what Daniel Palencia was doing. And then Danny P becomes a reliever. Oh, he's throwing 102. So how much stronger can Drew Gray get? Same thing with Will Sanders. I think Will is as composed and as pure of a starting pitching prospect as the Cubs have. Really reminds me of like a Brandon Birdsell, and Birdsell got to AAA this year. So did Connor Nolan. But it's the classic college primed arm. Brandon Birdsell started Texas Tech. Connor Nolan started Arkansas. Will Sanders, 4th round pick out of South Carolina. And after first couple starts of the year, Will really started to put it together. His first 2 starts, I had this conversation with him. He didn't like them. But then he really started to find his command. And then about mid-season, he went back to a pitch. He was throwing 4 pitches at the time. He added a 5th pitch mid-season, which is not easy to do. He added a splitter. It was actually a splitter he threw in college. So he didn't tell me about it. So during a start, he throws this pitch in the dirt. I'm like, I think that's a slider. And he's getting swing and miss, like consecutively on this pitch. So after the game, I was like, hey, man, it's like you're throwing your slider a little different. He goes, no, that's a splitter. I said, all right, well, thanks for the heads up. And so he just adopts this nasty splitter mid-season that he brought back from college. So he's throwing 5 pitches as a starter. I really like him. He's a nice guy. But again, I think he's kind of in that Birdsell Nolan grouping of these really sharp college arms that are finding themselves in pro ball.
And when you talk about people finding their way in pro ball, Nico Zieglin, why don't you tell us a little bit about him? Because he did not take the traditional route to get to South Bend.
He did not. And what we heard about him, I'm sure Sammy Wiederhaft told you all about him. What he did in Myrtle Beach, this guy goes undrafted. At a Long Beach State, he was top 10 in the nation in strikeouts in the NCAA the previous year, goes undrafted, which is so compelling because talented. He doesn't throw soft by any means. I mean, he throws mid to low 90s. That's fine. For whatever reason, he got sidestepped in the draft. He has to go down to the Mexican League, shoves there, and then the Cubs give him a free agent opportunity. I think what's most impressive about his story, Crawly, is he did not attend spring training with the Cubs, Mitchell Turansky, the same story. Turansky was with us in our bullpen, left-hander. He was released by the Dodgers out of their spring training, then inked a deal with the Cubs. Had no spring training experience with the Cubs, went to Myrtle Beach, then us, finishes the year. Brand new teammates, brand new catchers, brand new pitching coaches. Same thing. Zeglin didn't have spring training. He got signed out of the Mexican League, has to go to Myrtle Beach, play for Buddy Bailey. Never met Buddy, never met any of the catchers, probably never been to Myrtle Beach. I can tell you he's never been to South Bend in his life. But that's a layer of baseball that I don't think anybody really talks about because it's assumed that everybody knows each other and everybody's on the same page with their pitcher, catcher, pitching coach. Not at all. I mean, sometimes there are guys showing up that sign a free agent deal and they're thrown to a catcher they've never met, or there's a language barrier. So super impressive by Nico Zeglin to hang an ERA in Myrtle Beach under 1 and then hang his ERA in South Bend under 2.
Now, sometimes when you do get the big names, the big draft picks, it's interesting in the minor league. Sometimes they're there just for a short bit. They kind of fly through there. You had 2 exciting names kind of come on through. When you think about the hitting side, Cam Sanders, you had him come through, number 1 draft pick. And then you had Jackson Wiggins, who was a number 2 round draft pick, 2023. Tell us a little bit about Cam Sanders and Jackson Wiggins from what you saw.
Yeah, I mean, what Cam Smith did with the South Bend Cubs and even the Myrtle Beach Pelicans, let's start here. I mean, the guy had 6-7 straight games with a home run. I mean, he had tied the minor league all-time record for most straight games with a home run. So that ended in his last tenure with the Pelicans. He came to South Bend, hit 1 home run with the South Bend Cubs. It was out in Fort Wayne. Huge bomb. What's kind of funny about Cam Smith hitting that homer, and I was out in Fort Wayne, so I was getting ready. It's like, all right, I need to be ready for a Cam Smith homer because I need to have a good call of it. Because, Marquee Sports Network and, 670 The Score, or whoever, our station in South Bend, 960 WSBT, everybody would want it, right? Everybody wants the call. So, all right, it's like, all right, I have a good call. I need to have a good call. So every at bat, I was locked in. I was doing the old broadcaster kind of set, and here's the 0-2. And then it's like, dang it, he didn't get one. So we turned a triple play out in Fort Wayne in the last week of the season. Ed Howard did it himself, actually. Kind of, sort of. There was a line drive to second. Ed caught it, grabbed it, raced to the bag, stepped on the base, and then threw to first for the triple play. So it was a 4-3 triple play. Drew Gray was on the mound. So that triple play ended the inning, obviously. And Cam Smith was leading off the next inning. So I'm all juiced up because it's a triple play. I've never seen a triple play in my life, let alone called one. So I'm all juiced. I'm losing my mind. I went to break late. Now, thankfully, we got back in time because of the first pitch of the next inning. Guess who homers? Cam Smith. And my call of it, I wish I had it back because I came back from the break and I was like, oh, man, how about that triple play? And here's the ball driven in the air. It's Cam Smith's first high A homer. So anyway, long story short, Cam had 1 homer with us. Yeah, man, that's as professional and as ready of a bat as I've seen come through. I mean, I can only compare it to the other 2 first-round bats I've seen in South Bend, and those names are Matt Shaw and Nico Horner. So, yeah, a lot of power. I mean, Cam Smith, I'm not sure if you have seen him in person yet, Crawly, and you will at spring training. Physically imposing. Like, the guy is tall and he actually looks a little slender, but you kind of peel back the layers like this is a big guy. He's got a ton of power. He can use both sides of the field. I like the way he played third base. It was impressive. And again, like it's a polished college bat, and the Cubs knew exactly what they needed when they got him. They got a game ready third baseman. I'm excited to watch him. Jackson Wiggins. Yeah, I mean, I think what stands out from Myrtle Beach is when he got to Myrtle, the walks were an issue. He found it and really showed a nice graph of the strike zone. Came to South Bend, kind of the same thing. Walks were an issue, command was an issue, and then he just started piecing it together. Struck out a career high in back-to-back starts to end the year, and he looks like a big league pitcher. It's kind of the same thing with Will Sanders. They've got what we call the old bus effect, where they get off the bus and you say, who's that? And it's Jackson Wiggins and it's Will Sanders. Big frame, 6'5", 220 pounds. Same thing for Will Sanders. Jackson Wiggins has got a wipeout slider, pairs it with a nice 12-6 curve. I actually thought his changeup was his best pitch, which I actually said the same thing about Cade Horton when he was in South Bend. I think both Wiggins and Horton have wipeout changeups, and that's going to play very well at the higher levels.
Now, obviously there's going to be a lot of things that we're going to look at next year, but I've been watching, of course, the South Bend Cubs social media, and you guys are doing a lot of work over in Four Wind Fields, which is pretty exciting.
It is exciting. And I caught the start of it because I was pretty much out right after the season ended. So the new pictures they have shared with no roof and no seats, that's a little different. But it was funny. We finished the year in Fort Wayne, as mentioned. So we wrap up the home slate on like September 1st, and we pack the bus. And they're like, when you guys get back, this is going to be unrecognizable. We're like, okay, yeah, sure. And we come back a week later. The field is gone. There's no grass. There's humps of dirt everywhere. There's cranes. There's all kinds of construction equipment. He's like, all right, you were right. Yeah, so that was weird to see a baseball field at like its guts. I imagine a field with no grass and only dirt, but you can still see like the baselines and the infield, if that makes sense. Kind of weird. The sod father, the White Sox groundskeeper, blanking on his actual name, but obviously they call him the sod father. He is in charge of it, and he has experience working with Andrew Berlin when Andrew was an investor in the White Sox. So the sod father is back in South Bend. It's going to be exciting, and this is kind of phase one, Crawly, of the renovation. So phase one, replacing the seats, brand new playing surface, second deck going up. So if you come out in South Bend next year, you're going to get an opportunity to catch a game from a second deck suite. We'll make sure you get to get up there, and we'll give you all the amenities for sure. And then phase two will follow after the 2025 season, and that is the big project out in the left field corner with the convention center going in. That's where the team offices will also be. And what's cool, that convention center, there will be a gate that kind of splits the convention center and the team offices from the seats in the suite. That'll be the new entrance to the ballpark. And the convention center at the top will connect to the second deck suites. So you'll be able to kind of do a little panoramic walk of the ballpark from that angle. So it's going to be cool. People will be able to have their weddings at the park. People can have company events. People, I guess, birthday parties, whatever you want. So it's going to be sweet. And Crawly, I'm thankful to be the announcer for the South Bend Cubs. I'm one of the most fortunate and blessed guys there is. And this is just another example of that. It's going to look awesome when it's done.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew Berlin has done so much, invested so much in this team. You're talking about Roger Bossard being the sod father coming in, and it's like I said, I just from my just as a fan coming to South Bend, and it's first of all, you guys always put on one of the best experiences, Chris Hagstrom and everybody out there just literally like putting it in there. But now just it's I think people don't understand how great the Cubs minor league system is, not just as far as talent, but as far as game day, as far as investing in the team. And I think that's just phenomenal. And it's going to be fun to watch. I watched it with the 1060 project when the Cubs were going through that process. And now watching it with South Bend, like you said, no seats, no dirt, no nothing. But boy, it sounds like it's, even just going down there, even now, it's just amazing how, they got the condo, like the rooftops, like right over by left field and all the stuff that they just got there. It's a lot of fun. So honestly, if you've never been to South Bend, it's a great place to see a lot of talent. It's so fun. You guys have so many cool giveaways. And now just this field is just going to keep looking better and better for the next couple of years as they keep making these huge renovations.
Yeah, and from what I understand, the new grass has been planted, and they just gave the new cut on the new grass. So trying to do that, obviously, before winter comes and it starts to freeze. So they had the first cut of grass, and that's been put in, and it's going to be cool, man. I definitely suggest to all Cubs fans listening, because again, I was a diehard Cubs fan growing up, right? My dad and I took a trip to Des Moines when I was a senior in high school. to watch Chris Bryant and Javi Baez play with the iCubs. And that's a trip I'll never forget. And I encourage Cubs fans, you can really, again, this would take a lot of miles, but if you start in Des Moines and you go across Iowa, you stop at Wrigley, you go across I-80, you stop in South Bend, take a trip down US 31 and I-65, you're in Knoxville, just AA, and then go out to the coast to Myrtle Beach, man. That is a full-on Cub fan trip, catching all the affiliates. But if you've got the time, check out every single ballpark, especially the Smokes are getting a new stadium. I mean, heck, you could go to the beach during the day and then go watch the Pels game. And then, Des Moines, where the S's are silent, but the city is
the city's buzzing.
The city's buzzing. But
steak to Burgo.
Yeah. So no, I totally suggest taking that trip. It's definitely worth it.
It's honestly, it's one of my favorite things to do is talking to all you guys and going out to see you guys. It's I got to be out there when Ian Happ was there. It's just fun. And you know what, especially if you have a family and stuff like that, it really is affordable, fun, access to players that you wouldn't get really anywhere else. I really encourage everyone. And South Bend is so close, as far as compared to, as far as Wrigley, you're not far. It's an all-day trip, but it's a fun trip, and it's really exciting. BK, I appreciate you jumping on. Let everybody know where they can follow you on the socials. I know you do other sports besides baseball, but I want to make sure everybody's following you because when the South Bend season gets going, you're going to be ready. Yeah, appreciate it, Crawly. Twitter is @BKingSports. The Instagram and TikTok, Brendan King Show. One thing I've really tried to do through the last year is actually quite successful. I go live on TikTok while I'm calling games. So that kind of gives an interesting little angle, a little personable touch, I guess, between listener and broadcaster because they could see the face and see the call. So yeah, TikTok @Brendan King Show. I'll be live on opening day and can't wait. We open the season at Beloit first weekend of April. So it's going to be great. And for everyone that wants to meet BK, you can do that at Cubs convention. They're always there. They got prospects kind of coming in. It's some of the most fun times is having the whole minor league affiliates all together in one spot and just having fun. And you guys are busy, but you're so great with all the fans that come up and talk to you. Can't wait to see you there, man. It's going to be a fun winter. Loving it. I'll see you soon, BK. Hi, Crawly.
This is Season 3, Episode 84, the 2024 Cubs Outfielder Grades. Don't forget to listen, download, review, and subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Leave us a 5-star review. You can email Crawly and I, flythew670@gmail.com. Feel free to grade the outfielders along with us. Are you more with me on the grade for Seiya Suzuki, or are you more with Crawly? Don't forget, you can watch us on the 670 The Score YouTube page. All right, Crawly, we have a World Series set. It wrapped up Sunday night. The NL side and the AL side wrapped up on Saturday night. Let's walk everybody through it.
What did you think, Dustin? I thought the ALCS, even though it looked worse on paper, the Yankees.
If you caught the games, there were a couple of classics.
Right. I think even though the Yankees took 4 out of 5 from the Guardians, I thought it was a better series than Mets Dodgers, where it went to Game 6.
I agree with that. Yep. Sometimes it doesn't. That's a good point. Sometimes it doesn't always mean. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. And so when we talk about Wednesday night, after stealing home field advantage from the Dodgers, the Mets were looking to take the lead in the series at home. Not a great start for the Metropolitans. Second inning, Luis Severino on the mound. He walks the first batter. He faced Max Muncy. Then Teoscar Hernandez hits one in front of the catcher, Francisco Alvarez. The throw is off. Everyone is safe. Gavin Lux would ground out for the first out of the inning, but runners advanced to second and third. Will Smith at the plate. He hits one right at Severino. It looked like Luis wasn't sure if he wanted to get the lead runner at third or go for a double play. It deflects off of Severino's glove. A run scores. You now got runners at the corners with one out for Tommy Edman. We'll talk about him more later, but he hits a sac fly. Dodgers are up 2-0. Mets have a chance to answer in the bottom of the inning. Dodgers pitcher Walker Buehler gave up 2 walks and a single to load the bases. He was able to strike out Francisco Alvarez and Francisco Lindor to get out of the jam. Severino gets in his own bases loaded jam with one out in the bottom of the third before getting Teoscar Hernandez to line out and Gavin Lux to ground out.
Neither starter goes deep, which is really, Dustin, the story of this postseason right now. Buehler pitched 4 shutout innings, gave up 3 hits, 2 walks, 6 Ks. Severino 4 2/3 innings, gave up 2 runs, 3 hits, 4 walks, 3 Ks. Battle of the bullpens, and the Dodgers have had one of the best in baseball. LA also decided to play some long ball against the Mets bullpen. Kike Hernandez hit a 2-run homer in the 6th to double the Dodgers lead to 4-0. Top of the 8th, 2 on, 1 out for Shohei Ohtani, who hits the ball with an exit velocity of 116. The only question was it going to be fair or foul? Right field ump called it fair. The New York replay upheld the call. 3-run blast for Shohei to blow this one open 7-0. Dustin, get this. Going into game 3, Ohtani was 4 for 5 with a homer and a pair of walks with runners in scoring position. 6 for 8 with a homer and 3 walks with runners on base. And 0 for 19 with the bases empty. That was just crazy. I unbelievable stats. How about Max Muncy, who hit a solo home run in the 9th, and the Dodgers take game 3, 8-0. And Dustin, every one of these games was just either a blowout for one side or the other, right?
Right. Yeah. And to your point earlier, that's kind of what kind of made this, unless you were a fan of one of these two teams or really despised one of these two teams, kind of a little bit of a, not as compelling, but, a lot of fireworks. So if you like runs, this was a series for you.
So Thursday night, Mets looking to bounce back. Look good on paper for the Dodgers. You had Yoshinobu Yamamoto going up against former Cub Jose Quintana. Unfortunately, this game wasn't much better for the Mets. First batter of the game, Shohei Ohtani hits a leadoff home run. The Mets answer back in the bottom of the first. Mark Vientos, I talked about him in segment 1. He answers with a solo home run of his own to tie the game up. That was Vientos' 4th home run of the postseason. Dodgers retook the lead in the 3rd. Tommy Edman had an RBI double. Kike Hernandez hit an RBI single. Dodgers are up 3-1. Mets answer in the bottom of the inning, but they left some runs on the board. Bases loaded, 1 out. Brandon Nimmo grounds into a force out. Alonso's out at 2nd. Nimmo was also called out, but the Mets challenged, and the call was overturned. A run scores. Mets trailed 3-2, but that was the last run New York would score. Top of the 4th, 1 out. Quintana gives up a single and walks Ohtani. Q's night's over. Jose Butto comes in, and Mookie Betts greets him with the 2-run double. Dodgers up 5-2. For Quintana, only lasted 3 1/3 innings, gave up 5 runs, 5 hits, 4 walks, 2 Ks. The Mets would walk Ohtani again in the 6th inning, and once again, Mookie Betts would make him pay. 2-run homer. LA leads 7-2. The Dodgers would add 3 more in the 8th, 2 runs on a Tommy Edman double, and he would come around to score on a Will Smith single. Another blowout in Queens. Dodgers take this one 10-2. Mookie Betts was 4 for 6 with 4 RBIs. Tommy Edman 2 for 6 with 3 RBIs. The Mets had their chances, Dustin. 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position in that game, and they left 12 men on base.
That will drive you as a fan. You know what crazy. Crazy. That's the worst. That's the worst. It's the absolute worst.
And you look at that 1-2 punch of Shohei and Mookie, 5 for 9, 3 walks, 5 RBIs, 7 runs, 2 home runs, just absolutely unbelievable. And so, another guy that we talked a little bit about was Max Muncy. How about this one, Dustin? Ties Mr. October, Reggie Jackson. 12 consecutive postseason plate appearances where he reached base. 12 in a row. That's unbelievable just in the regular season. In postseason baseball, I mean, that's unheard of. Sunday night was a winner-go-home game for New York. The Mets got on board in the first, Pete Alonso RBI single. And so when you're looking at, game 5, they got the Pete Alonso with a 3-run homer in the first inning. Dodgers get one back in the top of the 2nd, runners at 1st and 3rd. Kike scores on a wild pitch, 3-1 ball game. Mets erupt for 5 runs in the 3rd. Starlin Marte 2-run double. Francisco Alvarez RBI single. Francisco Lindor with an RBI triple, and Brandon Nimmo hit an RBI single. Mets are up 8-1. Bad night for Jack Flaherty. He pitched 3 innings, gave up 8 runs on 8 hits, 4 walks, no Ks. The Dodgers got 1 run back in the top of the 4th on an Andy Pages solo home run. Mets got 2 runs in the bottom of the 4th on a Jesse Winker triple and a Jeff McNeil sac fly. 10-2 ball game. The Dodgers, though, they didn't lay down. Top of the 5th, Andy Pages homers again, this time a 3-run blast. Cut the Mets lead to 10-5, and Mookie Betts hit a solo homer in the 6th to make it a 10-6 ball game. So it kind of forced the Mets to use relievers Ryan Stanek and Edwin Diaz for multiple innings, when you think that the Dodgers would have preferred, the Mets would have preferred not to go to those guys. When you think you have a blowout, like 8-1 lead, right? So the Mets would win this 112-6. Series heads back to LA Sunday night. And this is win or go home as well. But Mets get on the board first. Pete Alonso RBI single. That's the last time they would lead in the game. Bottom of the first, Tommy Edman hits a 2-run double, put the Dodgers up 2-1. Tommy Edman strikes again in the third with a 2-run homer to make it 4-1. And then after walking Max Muncy, Sean Manaea's day was over. Reliever Phil Manton would get the next 2 outs, but then gave up a 2-run homer to Will Smith, getting jiggy with it. Dodgers are up 6-1. Manaea only went 2 innings, gave up 5 runs, 6 hits, 2 walks, and 2 Ks. Mets would get 2 of those back. Top of the fourth, Mark Vientos again hits a 2-run homer to cut the Dodgers lead 6-3. Shohei Ohtani hit an RBI single in the 6th for the Dodgers. Francisco Alvarez had a sac fly in the 7th for the Mets. Dodgers would score 3 more in the 8th and go on to beat the Mets 10-5. And so the Dodgers punched their ticket to the World Series, Dustin.
And that was that. I gotta ask you a question. How did my guy Mookie Betts not win the series MVP?
Good question. We'll get to that. But
all right.
You got to take a look at everything, and it's hard. I think that's always tough when you're trying to pick who the MVP is. I think you could have easily argued that. I think you easily could have argued Shohei Ohtani. That's the thing with both of these teams.
Right.
They're, to me, when I was
even the other guy, Crawly. How about Max Muncy?
Yeah.
Right. I think I heard you mention his name a few times in the last couple of minutes.
Right. 12 consecutive on bases streak.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like you said, tying Mr. October. Come on now.
That Dustin is why these two teams are making it to the World Series. Pick your poison. Who do you want to face?
Stars
everywhere. And the guy who got the MVP is not even a star, but we'll talk about that momentarily. ALCS was just like you talk about classics. Guardians down 2-0 in the series. They need a win. And this one, game 3 was just unbelievable. The Yankees got out to an early lead, top of the second. Jose Trevino with an RBI single to score. Anthony Volpe. Yankees up 1-0. Bottom of the third, Kyle Manzardo hits a 2-run blast. Cleveland up 2-1. That was the first lead they had in the ALCS in 20 innings. For Manzardo, that was his first postseason home run and was the first time a rookie Cleveland Guardian or Indian rookie homered with at least 1 runner on base in a postseason game. The Guardians had an insurance run in the bottom of the 6th on an Andre Jimenez single to increase their lead to 3-1. Progressive Field is rocking. Top of the 8th, Hunter Gaddis comes in to pitch. He gets the first 2 outs, but then he walks Juan Soto. Manager Stephen Vogt calls on all-star closer Emmanuel Clase to get a 4-out save. He has a 1-2 count on Aaron Judge, but the big man gets a hold of one, home run to right field, tied up at 3. Then the next batter, Giancarlo Stanton, goes yard, back-to-back jacks. Yankees take a 4-3 lead. Dustin, for Class A, he had not allowed 3 home runs in 5 games He's now allowed 3 home runs in 5 post games after that. He only allowed 2 home runs in 74 games during the regular season. So it's just the fans are stunned. The air's out of the stadium. The Yankees get an insurance run in the top of the 9th on a Gleyber Torres sac fly. They're up 5-3, 3 outs from taking a 3-1 lead. Luke Weaver's on the mound. Jose Ramirez reaches on an error by Anthony Rizzo, but Josh Naylor grounds into a double play. Guardians are down to their final out. Lane Thomas will double, keep Cleveland alive. Now Vogt puts in pitch hitter Yoensky Noel, a.k.a. Big Christmas. Weaver throws a changeup right in his happy zone to tie up the game. Going into extras. No Manfred man in the postseason. Yankees don't score in the top of the 10th. Guardians have a chance. They have a runner at third, 2 outs, and David Fry, who had that big grand slam in the DS against Detroit. He walks it off with the 2-run homer. Cleveland has life. They're now down 2-1 in the series. Then Friday night, Yankees get out to an early 2-0 lead thanks to a Juan Soto 2-run homer. Guardians answer back in the bottom of the inning. Jose Ramirez with the sac fly to make it a 1-run game. Austin Wells would answer with a solo home run in the top of the 2nd. Yankees are up 3-1. Josh Naylor, RBI single in the bottom of the 3rd, 1-run game again. Cleveland trailing 3-2. And it would stay that way until the 6th. The Yankees have runners at 2nd and 3rd. Giancarlo Stanton at the plate, right? And so Yankees have runners at 2nd and 3rd. Stanton at the plate, Rizzo on deck. Cade Smith has Stanton with the count of 1-2, but Stanton crushes the next pitch to left center. Yankees up 6-2. It looks like this one's over, right? But Cleveland's still fighting. Bottom of the 7th, runners at the corners for Jose Ramirez. He doubles. He scores Brian Rocchio. The next batter, Josh Naylor, also doubles, 2-run scores. Cleveland's cut the lead to 1, 6-5, and the Yankees still have trouble with runners in first and second, 1 out. And in comes former Cub Mark Leiter Jr. Now, Leiter Jr. wasn't on the ALDS or CS roster for the Yankees, but there was an injury. They appealed to MLB, and he was added to the roster. He hadn't pitched, Dustin, since mid-September.
Huh.
He has to face Yohensky Noel, who hits one that falls about 3 runs short from being the go-ahead home run. It's just a loud second out. Leiter strikes out Andres Jimenez to end the threat. Loud second out on that one. Cleveland's not done. Bottom of the 8th, Bo Naylor doubles to lead off the inning. 2 outs later, he's at third. David Fry's up to bat. He hits one to the first base side. Leiter makes the play. He grabs it, but his momentum's carrying him to foul. He throws it kind of like right into Rizzo, and it goes through the old 5-hole. The wicket's right there. Naylor scores, and it is a tie ball game. Dustin, Rizzo's playing with 2 fractured fingers, and I was going, oh my God, please don't let that be one of the last memories that people have of Rizzo, you know?
Right.
The Guardians have all the momentum going into the 9th, but Anthony Rizzo and Anthony Volpe hit back-to-back singles against Emmanuel Clase. Volpe steals second to put runners at second and third. Austin Wells strikes out for the first out of the inning. Alex Verdugo hits a squibbler to shortstop Brian Rocchio, who right now is not feeling really good. He looks towards home, but the ball squirts out of his hand. Everyone is safe. A run scores. The New York retakes the lead 7-6. Gleyber Torres singles to make it 8-6. That's how the game ends. Cleveland falls into a 3-1 hole. That takes us to Saturday night, do or die for Cleveland. Guardians get off to a good start. Bo Naylor, RBI double to give Cleveland a 1-0 lead. Stephen Kwan with an RBI single in the 5th to make it a 2-0 game. Dustin, there was some controversy with Yankees manager Aaron Boone. He puts Chaz Chisholm in this cleanup spot, 4th. With all those boppers, you're going to put Chaz Chisholm in the 4th. Okay. Top of the
yeah. But you know, when you win, they don't get questioned. These things don't get brought up. That's what always drives me nuts.
Right. Top of the 6th, Gleyber Torres and Juan Soto hit back-to-back singles. You got runners at first and second. Aaron Judge grounds into a double play. And so Torres moves to third, but now there are 2 outs. So you have Giancarlo Stanton at the plate, who's hitting .294 with a 1.179 OPS and 4 home runs in the postseason. And on deck is Chaz Chisholm, hitting .147 with a 481 OPS. I don't understand how Stephen Vogt doesn't say, walk Stanton, get to Chisholm. I don't get it.
I don't know either. That's a good, great question. Another great question.
Stanton hits a home run, his 5th, at 446 feet to tie the game. This would go into extra. Austin Wells draws a walk, then in a play that will give Guardians fans nightmares for years to come. Alex Verdugo hits a roller to second baseman Andres Jimenez. This one again goes to Brian Rocchio. He's a rookie playing shortstop. He wants to turn a quick double play. The ball squirts out of his glove, and everybody is safe. He never catches the ball from the throw from Jimenez. That's huge. The next batter, Gleyber Torres, strikes out. That would have been the 3rd out if Rocchio just caught the ball and stepped on second, not try to get the double play. Now Juan Soto is up the bat. Again, do you walk him to get to Aaron Judge, who's struggling? That's a question that's going to be asked a lot. Counts 1-1, and Soto fouls off 4 straight pitches. It counts 1-2, but he gets a hold of a high fastball, a 3-run blast. Yankees go up 5-2. That would be the final. The Yankees win the AL pennant. And Dustin, we made our predictions before this started. And here is what you and I had to say before the ALCS, NLCS.
Predict this thing. Winner of the NLCS, Crawly, is...
Ooh, boy, this is always going to be tough. The NLCS, I think that the Mets' amazing run ends. I'd said I wasn't going to go against the Mets, but somehow the Dodgers just got too much talent. I think that the Dodgers take this one. I'm going to go 4-2.
So Dodgers in 6. That sounds about right. I'll match that. Dodgers in 6. Winner of the ALCS, I will go first. Yankees. Guardians do nothing for me. They don't do anything for me. This is a Dodgers, Yankees, made for TV, Fox executives, just just loving life.
So we both have Dodgers. We both have Yankees. I got Yankees in 5. Give me your NLDCS MVP.
Well, since I'm going Dodgers, I think I've got to go Mookie Betts. He's just started to
Ooh.
get heated up, right? He started slow, but he's been playing well of late. I think Mookie Betts, again, not that that's like, oh, crazy Dustin, Mookie. I think he's coming into form, and I think he'll be the difference.
Yep, stars can break out. I am going to go with Teoscar Hernandez.
You're going a little long ball on Teoscar Hernandez. All right, AL side.
AL side, boy, oh boy. I'm gonna go easy on this one. I'm gonna go Juan Soto.
I'm gonna go. He's also been hot. I'm gonna go Gleyber Torres. Right?
Gleyber Torres. All right.
He's been hot, right? I mean, maybe Judge is going to finally wake up. Judge has had a very pedestrian postseason so far. Very pedestrian.
I was flipping between Juan Soto and Giancarlo Stanton, who I think's looked really good. But yeah, it's. I think this is going to be fun, and I think for baseball fans, this is going to be a great series. I mean, we were pretty darn close there, Dustin. We said 4-2 Dodgers. We said 4-1 Yankees. Now, I was right on the AL MVP. It went to
Soto.
It went to Juan Soto, and then when you take a look at the NL MVP, it went to I'm sorry, Giancarlo Stanton was the AL MVP.
Okay.
And so I thought I was close, but I was flipping and flopping between the two. But the NL MVP, neither of us were in the ballpark.
Well, I think I was in the ballpark. I mean, I don't know if we saw who was second or third. I don't think they tell us that, do they?
Tommy Edman, though. Nobody gets to guess Tommy Edman.
No, that's what I'm saying. And I still don't okay, he had a great game when they clinched. But I mean, he was okay. Teoscar Hernandez, I think both of our guys were more deserving, to be honest with you.
I would go Tommy Edman over Teoscar Hernandez. I think Mookie Betts and Shohei definitely had their names.
Mookie's definitely got an argument. All right, Crawly. So we've got the World Series is set. We're going to get into that next time. So we're going to wrap this one up and send everybody on their way. Don't forget, of course, to listen, download, review this thing, subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Leave us a 5-star review. Answer some of the questions that we put out there. Feel free. flythew670@gmail.com. And don't forget to watch us on the 670 The Score YouTube page. Crawly, that is a wrap of Season 3, Episode 84, the 2024 Cubs outfield grades. Enjoy the week, and we'll probably get back together before Game 1 of the World Series and break this thing down.
It's going to be a fun one, and there's going to be not a lot, but a few former Cubs to cheer on. Go Cubs! Hey guys, it's Crawly. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date with our latest episodes. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Go Cubs!